All right. So my guest today is Barby Ingle. She's the president of the International Fane Foundation. That's a good one. Yeah, of the International Pain Foundation. iPain, an Amazon best-selling author and reality TV personality, sharing her powerful story about life-changing events that forced reflection and sprouted her journey from wheels to heels. So that's the name of your book, Barbie. I've had a couple people on here that have had different issues with health, and I feel like I always feel bad like making you have to rehash everything, but I guess when you share, I'm sure the power of you sharing your story for other people in these situations is just worth it, I guess. I hope.
Yes, for me, it's worth it and it's helpful so that what I've been through doesn't happen to other people. And, it really is a little bit of therapy for myself to share what I've been through and let people take from that what they need, and maybe they'll get help faster.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the I have to really take time with pronouncing it. That's why I'm trying to be so slow today. So endometriosis.
Yeah, not endometriosis.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a female condition when the lining of the uterus grows outside of the lining of the uterus,
Yeah.
and it can attach and attack other parts of the body. So that was the first rare disease that I had, and no one else in my family had had it up to that point. So I was kind of driving blind with it, but ended up going through multiple treatments and surgeries that did not help, and having to have a full hysterectomy, which for me, it was like, I won. I got past this.
Right.
And little did I know, just a few years after that, I actually had a more severe rare disease that was coming down the pipeline.
Was that are they connected? And
They are not connected in any way.
right.
And the so endometriosis was in my abdomen. RSD is full body for me. Some people have it where it's affecting just a finger or toe or leg.
Yeah.
For me, I have full body, which affects my entire body. Reflex is anything in your body that's automatic, goes haywire. So breathing, your heart, your swallowing, your internal organs, all goes haywire. Sympathetic is the sympathetic nervous system, and that feels like someone put lighter fluid on me and caught me on fire, and I'm just burning. And then dystrophy is loss of muscle and bone, which makes me really weak and brittle.
Yeah. And so this is something that started in 2002. Um,
Yes.
in my research, I kind of just was looking at the different healthcare issues in the United States, right? And I think that you're probably someone that can discuss that in depth, because it was something that in 2002 you started having symptoms, and then you went off and were going to doctors, going to physicians, trying to figure out what's going on, right? You know what I mean?
Correct.
And these people are probably like, "What? You feel like you're on fire?" Okay, yeah, right.
It didn't make sense to them. And most of the time when I went in, I would be crying. And so then they're more worried about my mental health than my physical health.
Mm,
And I wasn't talking their language. It took me a while to learn the language of the providers, the medical providers. But they also aren't trained to look at more than one area at a time. So I had different things going on in my body. I was dizzy. I was collapsing. I was walking into walls. My vision would go dark in my right eye. Um, Having trouble chewing food, thinking I'm chewing and swallowing properly, but choking when I swallow. Uh, Processing foods, like so many different options and challenges that had come up during this time, and there was no explanation. It just, one minute I was okay, and the next I wasn't, and um, it took 43 doctors to get the proper diagnosis.
43
Each
doctors.
doctor, yeah, each doctor looked at their specific area of expertise, and finally, the 43rd doctor said, I want to read everybody else's notes before I even examine you. And then came back in the room and said, I think I know what it is. I want to give you this test. And by then, I was very weary. of any provider touching me or doing anything, because prior to that, doctor said, "Oh, you need your ribs out." So you had ribs taken out.
Really?
Yeah, that doctor made a mistake. I actually didn't need my rib out, but he also made a mistake during the surgery. So then I had to go back in and have a second surgery to fix what he messed up.
Good Lord.
And so it just like snowballed into this big effect where I ended up in a wheelchair and or was bedbound for about a 7-year period. And but the doctor who said, "I think I know what it is," was correct. And I finally went home and researched on my own and went back and said, "Okay, I'll let you do the procedure." And the procedure showed that I was positive for RSD.
Mm.
And then I just went on from there as to trying to find treatments and options, because it's a rare disease and there's about 7,000 rare diseases. Only 5% have a cure. So I'm one of the lucky ones where I actually have some options with treatment. Some of the rare diseases don't have any option whatsoever.
What are the options just to kind of go down that route for a second?
So there's some that are less invasive, like mindfulness and meditation, that
Right.
are helpful. And then some providers will put a what they call a spinal cord stimulator or peripheral nerve stimulator into the patient. That when they offered me that, I weighed about 99 pounds, and they told me I was too little.
Hmm.
So that was an option for me. I did radio frequency ablations and uh, nerve ablations and spinal epidurals, where they go through your neck and they cauterize the nerves. They go through the front, but they actually cauterize the nerves in the back near the base of the neck and spine. So I went through like 39 nerve blocks, and 38 radio frequency ablations, and 3 spinal epidurals.
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
they didn't help. They would help lower the pain levels, but they never helped overall with all the other symptoms. But that's really all they had to offer me for all those years. And then finally in 2007, I heard of a treatment option, and I was able to get an appointment in 2009 because there was a waiting list.
Oh,
Yeah. And so when I went in for that procedure, it's an IV infusion therapy, and I've received it every 3 to 4 months since 2009, and that's what keeps me up and walking. So I was in a wheelchair when I went into the hospital, and then I was able to walk out of the hospital with my own legs, teeter tottering down the hall,
wow.
and that's what put me into remission. But I also still use some of the things like mindfulness and meditation and working on puzzles and things for dexterity to help with my hand-eye coordination and that type of thing.
That's really interesting. My wife and I have just gotten into this IV infusion thing just because of, well, kind of because of COVID, but also just as a preventative, like high doses of vitamin C. And as I was reading through, there was something I found about vitamin C and RSD, and I actually wanted to ask you about that. But what's in the infusion?
The infusion for me is a cocktail of medications. The one that's the best acting is called ketamine.
Yeah, okay.
And and ketamine is an anesthetic that they use. It was invented back in 1964.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctors that invented that, um, they passed it on, and they use it in veterinary science now. They use it mostly in the hospitals with children, elderly, and people that they don't know a lot about. For some reason, it resets the glia system, which is part of our fight flight system in our spine and brain.
Ah,
And in doing that, it helps put the other symptoms that you go through in remission.
because it's like
So
the sympathetic system. That's like this breathing, like this parasympathicos when you do these long out breathe. I do that actually before interviews and stuff just to relax my sympathetic nervous system. Yeah, but that's just like a nervous thing. So, but because of this disorder, or what do you call it? Is it a
it's a disease. They're
disease?
still doing research on it, but they've known about it since the Civil War.
Really?
So the name has changed on it over 40 times or over 20 times since then. Um, And just last week, I got a new word for it. Neurodystrophy.
Yeah, that's what I found too. That was
And that was kind of surprising to me. Like, what is this new word popping up? But every few years, a doctor seems, because it's rare, it's like, I discovered something new.
yeah.
And really, it's just the same thing being rediscovered over and over.
That reminds me of the dinosaurs. Like every time a new dinosaur was found, the guy would give his name to it. But it was like, what happened why aren't there any baby dinosaurs? Because these like a baby brontosaurus would be found, and they just name it like a new dinosaur and play. No, it's a smaller. They're like, no, it's a
version of the brontosaurus.
It's just a baby, man. You don't need to create a new thing after your name.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what happens. And so it's interesting to see how the medical field works, and it's designed to work as it works, which is just really poorly.
You're right.
But it saves money for the governments and for the medical industry to design it and run it so poorly, so we don't get the care as fast as we need to unless we know how to navigate the system.
Right, and so you learned how to. That's exactly where we can go. I kind of want to talk a little bit about ketamine for a second, because ketamine, I remember back in my younger years, that was like as a recreational drug. It was kind of like the date rape drug, right? Like it was this drug that used for narcolepsy in the pharmacology, like would actually, for people that have a hard time sleeping or need to have a regular sleep, it probably does the same thing. It relaxes them and puts them to sleep so that they have like a normal rhythm. Maybe it's I wonder if narcolepsy has the same sympathetic system.
The doctor, I'm not sure. I do have a lot of narcoleptic friends, but the doctor describes it as resetting the brain.
Uh-huh.
So it's like if your computer has a lot of problems, if you shut it down and bring it back up, then it works better typically. So it gets rid of all those little nuggets that have gotten stuck in there. So it's kind of like that for our system, and that's how it works.
That's interesting. I've also heard that ketamine is kind of making a comeback in for therapy for PSD, like for post-traumatic stress syndrome and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. For depression, PTSD, anxiety, is very helpful, especially with our military that's coming back from war. So we see them using it a lot, and the version that they get is a lot smaller. It's a lower dose and shorter, as in like time. They get 10 to 15 minutes, where my infusions last about 4 hours.
Okay.
So there's a difference in how they provide it, but it definitely does work on the same symptoms or same pathways.
Well, that's just like fantastic to hear that. So since about around 2009, since then it's been in remission because of this therapy.
Right. Exactly. And I say remission is possible because you don't really know what you're going to get out of the result, but know that you're going to have improvement and you can start rebuilding a life. It might not be the life you had before, but it's still pretty great.
Yeah. How did you you're positive now? I mean, how did you get through all that? And just mentally, I was reading some of the things that you wrote, and you're like, I still kept going and still kept searching. And after this many, I met thousands of different practitioners, and I still ended up just being my own. How did you call it? My own chief health officer or something.
Yeah, it's chief of staff of my medical team.
You have your own medical team, exactly.
Once I did that and took control, I was able to get the help that I need, and my doctors brought me in as part of the team with them, and we actually got more done versus being out there floating, waiting for somebody to come help me. I was able to step up and get the help that I needed.
So that's the thing, right? That's I had a minor injury, and I noticed that right off the bat. Like, nobody really cares more about your health than you. It makes sense in this, but when you say it and when you go to the doctor, you have like this expectation, like, heal me, just look at me and figure it out.
Yes.
And
and that's what I would say. Help me, fix me. And I wasn't giving him anything to fix. And so when I finally said, I'm having burning, shooting, stabbing, cutting pain, sometimes electrical. When I was able to give them adjectives, I turned the conversation around, and they said, oh, I know what to do for that. I know what to do for that. So it started leading down paths of treatment and getting the best care I could get. But prior to that, I was just going through the motions and trusting in the doctors and not taking responsibility. and I wasn't able to progress or improve.
But it's weird because we have like this feeling. Why we have a. I mean, it's the God in the white coat syndrome. It's like this. It's whatever they say is what it is, and it's.
Yep. And it's all around the world. It's not just in America. This happens in every country.
I think so too.
I wish that we would teach people at a younger age how to better care for themselves and what are the important things to speak up about and what words we need to have when we do need them.
Yeah, but it's almost intimidating. I went in. My rib was broken. I mean, it was popped out doing its own thing, and I had no idea. And my back was just really hurt because everything's so connected, right? So my lower back was. So I go over there and I say, "Yeah, my back, my lower back." And she just took a needle out. Basically, I got it, stuck in the needle and sprayed. I'm like, what, And like 6 months later, when I finally took control of my own ideas and figured it out, like I went to 2 or 3 different doctors, and none of them even found my rib, and it was so weird. I didn't really know. I didn't really diagnose myself either. Like I have to blame myself. Like it was probably avoidable. Like the initial injury probably would have been okay if I just had stopped training, but I popped it even worse. But the thing is, it found its spot, and everything else started to hurt. So I kind of was like, well, then it must be my back, And it was weird because later, like 6 months later, I found this chair where I could decompress my spine, and then everything got better instantly. But it was but it was just me. There was nobody else, and it was like, okay, I get it. Like I got to do this. This has got to be. I have to take control of the situation. And as hard as it is to, like, when you go to this doctor and they're like, this is what we're doing, to be like, no, let's just talk. Like, how do you have to really have your shit together to be able to, excuse me, but I cuss a little bit there, but just to be like, is this really the option that we need to go right now? Or maybe there's other options, or just having that conversation and maybe finding the practitioners that are willing to have that conversation with you. Cause maybe there are other ones that they're just not going to play that game. They're that you play this game, or you can go to another doctor, have a nice day. And that's just who they are. So you're not going to change that. I mean,
right. And you got to know, as a patient, you can fire a doctor. You can move on if the doctor's not able to help you in the areas that you need help. You have to realize that they are trained in certain areas, and if you're not in their scope, that might not be the right doctor for you.
Yeah, and it's just that perspective, or that paradigm shift to even be willing. It happened to me once I got into this family that my wife, they have a pharmacy in the family, so they always have kind of a different perspective on things, and they question things more often. It's kind of her job, right? She gets a prescription, and she has to kind of look at and make sure the doctors, they're all busy. Everyone's busy. There's a lot of stuff, and people, humans are there, and there's mistakes, and that's just the checks and balances of the system. But alone, just that mindset was still, after all that, after being years here and having that all ingrained in me, I still went to the doctor and just was like, I just did what she wanted me to do,
Yeah, which isn't always the right thing. We have to check and see and question our own belief in self and say, is this helping? Is this not helping? How long do I wait and try it as it's not helping? When do I ask for the next thing? And it's going to be an individual challenge, but it's something that we all need to do, and the earlier the better.
And then the moment you're also mentally, like, you're not 100% because you're injured or you have something going on. So like on top of that, you're really not your normal, like, good to go person that just got done with a fresh workout and like woke up and had a cup of coffee. Let's go do this doctor appointment. You're already like in pain, and like you have the mental issues, the mental the aspect of it is yeah. Okay.
And society teaches us stigmas of, always respect the people that are in that provider care position and never go against them and do what they tell you to do to get better. And I did that for 3 years, and I got worse and worse and worse. And then when I realized I have to be my own advocate, I have to stand up and take charge of my team, that's when I got the care that I needed.
Yeah. How did you so I've been living in Germany for 13 years, 14 years almost. So but I remember when I was in the States, I was young enough to kind of just be carefree and not have health care. And I was like, the $200 or $150 a month, I'll just save that. Uh, what was your healthcare situation going into this? Because that also probably, I mean, that is a huge part of this that I would like to talk about, like the healthcare system in the United States and you dealing with that throughout these phases of your diseases.
Yeah, thank you. So when I first got sick, I was head coach at Washington State University for cheerleading and dance. And I had insurance through Washington State University and therefore through the state. So I had really good insurance. And I was going to what they considered the best of doctors. And they ended up telling me they couldn't help me. And they suggested that I move to Arizona, which meant no longer working as a coach, which I wasn't really doing a very good job as it was. And then also getting a whole new team of doctors that knew me here in Arizona. And in doing that, it changed everything as far as going from regular health insurance that you can buy here in the United States to I ended up on Medicare.
Okay.
And so they give a whole different type of treatments and options and choices and learning that system. So that took a little while. But now I have it pretty dialed in, and I've been able to, even with just Medicare, get the treatments that I need and cut out the fluff and the other things, dial it in and know, okay, I'm going to do this treatment and know that I have the right to say no if they offer me something with my regular, PPO, we call it health insurance.
Yeah.
I figured I had to follow what the doctor said, but I really didn't have to. And neither do the other patients. We're just taught that that's what we're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Once I was able to break out of that mindset and the stigmas involved in that when you have a chronic condition, it's different. Our system is based for acute conditions. So being able to say, no, I have a chronic condition. I have to play an active role in this to get the care I need. That's when things changed.
Okay, so I've got Medicare, and then I've got Medicaid, which is for like lower income citizens.
Mm-hmm.
The Obamacare, this whole Affordable Health Care Act, doesn't play a role for you then if you were in Medicare. The Medicare
it's Obamacare. I've looked into it for my husband, and it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a great alternative. And if you have money and you don't have insurance through your provider, it could be a great choice. But for me, Medicare, because of the chronic conditions that I have, is a better way to get the care that I need.
That's what it's kind of designed for, right? Like I was just trying to kind of make the connections to that and to Germany. But it's tricky. Like, Germany has just got this universal health care system, and a lot of people kind of just say, oh, that's better. But I'm not sure. I haven't really gone deep enough into the. I mean, you hear these stories, right? You hear these stories of the woman that fell in Boston between a train, between the opening when she was leaving the train, and she her bone's basically sticking out of her leg, and she's like, "Don't call the ambulance. It costs $3,000." She's screaming it. She doesn't even care about the fact that her
bone's sticking out of her leg.
Yeah, her first thing that she says in that moment is she knew exactly how much it costs too. So she's like, "Don't call him. I can't afford it. I don't. We're gonna figure this out some other way." So that's you hear that and you think, well, okay, that's going too far, Or I read another story about the helicopter. These helicopter.
That's like a $20,000 minimum.
Yeah.
Cost right there. But they do let you, if you are low income, they do let you pay in smaller amounts, increments, and you can negotiate the bill. A lot of people don't know that, so they work their life to pay off this $20,000 helicopter bill. But you can't. There is ways around that.
Yeah, but that's just such a. I mean, honestly, I'm at this stage in my life where I've got 3 kids, and I don't make if I have an insurance, so they pay €100 a year for when I'm outside of the country and we're skiing or something, and right, that's when it's gonna happen. If it's gonna happen, you think, yeah, it happens every time I'm there. Someone gets flown out with a helicopter, right? And I just know that okay, that's just the risk that I don't want to take. And so we have this little insurance for when we leave the country. And that's what it costs, about $150. per, not even, and 20,000 euro. The one 20,000. The one person had to pay 40. It was for their child because there was some $47,000 bill, and they figured out afterwards that these ambulance companies have to, with the state, they have to put their prices. They have to show the prices to the state, and when they looked back, they lowered the price down afterwards. But they wrote the bill first for like 47. Well, maybe
it scares you.
Yeah, maybe you pay it. And these people were like, well, we can't pay it. So then they started looking, and they got into social media and everything, and it came out to being like something around 30 something. And they still were like, well, wait a minute. How could you even just send me a bill for $17,000 more just in the hopes that I pay it? And they were like, well, we're a big company. We have, and it came out that they ended up having not enough business, right? They had bought too many helicopters and had planned for more growth and didn't have it. So they're just trying to compensate these leases or whatever it's capitalism, right? And it just, I mean, it's, I don't know. I mean, I wonder how Germany does. I wonder how we do it in Europe, because there's helicopters flying around taking people all over the place. How do they cover these costs? I mean, it is expensive, right? It's got to be expensive to fly a helicopter and pick you up and take you to the hospital. And
yeah. Well, they do it by taxing the rich and charging through that system, and they also have separate public policies that people can, or private policies that people can go and attach to their insurances, kind of like we do here. But there's their basic health is covered, and that includes these rides if they need them. But then if they have catastrophic injuries, then they can get secondary and additional insurances.
Yeah, I don't know. I just it's a big one. It's a hard topic. I just delving into it, I realized I was like, wow, you can't, I can't do that to Barbie. I can't just make her explain me the whole healthcare system here. But I don't know, like maybe let's just talk about your book a little bit. Like, how did you come about across? Obviously we know why you wrote the book, but let's just talk about it. Yeah, what's the? I didn't get a chance to check it out, so maybe you can give me a little.
I have 9 books, but my first book.
9 books.
Yeah.
God, you're a busy woman.
I am. It's taken years to get there, but the book process for me was writing about my life and my experiences. And one day early on, I sat down and I started writing down like cliff notes, the things that I've gone through and things I'm going through. And then someone suggested that I write a book, and I just took those notes and turned it into a book. And it took about 6 years to do my first book. And now it just takes about 6 months to a year to do a new book. But it definitely took the longest on my first book, because I didn't ever write a book before. I didn't know what I was doing or exactly how to share the story so that it would come out meaningful for other people. And just took my time with it, not ever really necessarily thinking I was going to publish it. It was more for my family so they can understand what I was going through. Mm-hmm. But then once it was put together, realized, hey, this could be useful in society, not just for patients, but their caregivers or anybody who has somebody in their family that's living with a chronic condition. So I cover different topics, from healthcare and how to navigate the system, to talking to children, to having a better relationship with your spouse, to my story, which is From Wheels to Heels.
All right. That's pretty cool. So 9 books. Interesting. You also started this eye pain, this foundation. When did that start?
Yes, 2006. So it was a few years into being sick. My stepsister also had the same condition that I had, and she passed away in July of 2006. And every Thanksgiving, our family would do a sit around the table and talk about what could we do as a family to help society. And it would change. And every year it would be, let's go serve the homeless. Let's go serve people at the old folks' home. Let's do, deliver food, different things. And that year, my older brother and my dad said, hey, Barbara went through a lot to get the help that she's needed. What about we do something to help other people get that help sooner? And so that's how it grew out of. And by January 2007, we had the foundation, we were in place, and we were moving forward. And at that time, it was called the Power of Pain Foundation. And everyone would say, what does power of pain mean? And we were like, as our network grows, I think we could come up with a better name. So we ended up going to International Pain Foundation and serving people all over the world, not just with my condition, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, but people with many different conditions, first with nerve pain and now with all types of pain, uh, physical pain, spiritual pain, psychological pain, um, all wrapped into one and addressing all those different areas. So there's over 150 different conditions that we work with, and we do projects on education, awareness, social events, and access to care to help patients, their family, and their caregivers get the help, the hope, and the resources that they need to live a better life.
And how have you guys been affected by the pandemic? Because when I was on your website, I was looking at like you guys do a lot of stuff. Like you guys meet, right? And you have events where people. I'm sure it's just like a live event and people are there. And
Yeah.
now it's like I saw something. Yeah, I saw something like it was kind of you guys want to do like a virtual run or what was that? I've been on LinkedIn following you around and
You.
yeah, it's cool. I'm just trying to get a feel for what you're doing. You just do so much. I was like, what are we talk about? But yeah,
Yes.
so. Yeah,
So one of our upcoming events is the I Give a Care Run Walk Roll.
I give a care.
And people can participate around the world. With COVID, everything that we do, we changed from in person to online. So you can participate from anywhere. You can do it inside your house. You can go out in your neighborhood. You can go to another neighborhood. You can go on a trip if you're up for that. And on March 29th, we ask that people go and participate some way. You can run, you can walk, you can bike, you can hike, you can dance, you can swim, but do something that helps raise awareness to show people that you live with a chronic disease or you support somebody who does that involves pain. And then you go into our dashboard and put your times in there and we send you a gift.
Oh, cool.
Yep, May 29th. So it's just a few weeks away.
Right on. What do you have planned? Is it a secret? Can't tell you.
I keep changing my mind. I'm like, I'm gonna dance, and then I'm like, well, maybe I'll go biking or walking. So I might do multiple activities throughout the day to get through and raise awareness. But something here in my hometown.
Yeah, and you said you were in Arizona.
Yeah,
Right.
Gold Canyon, Arizona. We just moved here, and it's quite a quaint little town.
Cool.
It's very pretty up in the mountains of Arizona, and I'm really loving it.
Right on. Yeah. Now we just got our first sunny days here in Germany, so it was. It's like, yeah, it's like when it gets sunny in Germany, then everyone just. You have to put your sunglasses on though. There's just everyone's really pale, just like I am. I was like, God, I can't see that. I was too pale to be out in the sun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty much like just the roundabout about what you've been up to, huh? I got it all in there.
Absolutely. We've covered a lot here.
Yeah. I don't know. I have this whole thing I can tell now. I just want to go back and hit up this whole health issue because the care system, because I think about also like how pandemic, and I wonder if there's a downside to the way Germany runs things too, and if the United States was able to, react faster. And I don't know. I mean, I actually usually steer away from the pandemic in these interviews because everyone just talks about it. And I mean, I can give you the option. If you would just rather not, then we can leave it alone.
Yeah, with the pandemic, it's a little bit difficult because there's not enough research and information to make a good, solid decision on what to do.
Right.
And I would prefer that we had longer term studies and that type of thing, but we didn't know it was coming and we had to do something right away. So it definitely is putting a toll on society and relationships, on finances and how we interact. And I think that it's changed a lot. One of the good things that came out of the pandemic is telemedicine, and that's been really helpful. I've been using it before the pandemic, but now more people have access to it. And I'm excited to see growth like that in the health field where, we have the therapeutics for COVID coming along, and we also have telemedicine to help keep us from being out and open and exposed to other people that may have coronavirus.
So telemedicine is just basically like you're my practitioner and we're having okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you can do it by video or by phone, and you don't have to go into the office. I've
Mm.
actually used text messaging for telehealth and video and phone, and it makes it a lot easier. I don't need to leave the house, and for the most part. And if there's something that I absolutely need to leave the house, the doctor's guiding me the whole way through.
Interesting. What can you say about, you wrote here something about I have to say this now,
Oh, pharmacogenomics. I
Yeah.
love pharmaco.
Yeah.
Yes, pharmacogenomics is really interesting. It's a study of medicine and how it reacts with each individual person versus a lot of times doctors will say, try this medication,
Yeah.
see if it helps. With pharmacogenomics, they already know before you take it, if you're allergic to it, you won't have a reaction because you won't take it. If it's going to be a good medicine for you, they know that before they give it to you. And and they actually can help give you the proper dose if you're a poor or rapid metabolizer to get you the care you need faster without having you go through a lot of bad side effects. So
Right.
it's quite a wonderful thing. It's precision medicine. It's individualized for you by your DNA, and we're trying to get it passed here in the United States so that the Newborn Screening Act covers it, and every patient gets it when they're born.
So how does that work? So they basically, you have to get your genome sequenced, right?
Yes, and so they do it with a mouth swab. It's non-invasive. They swab your mouth, and then they put it into a machine that puts out the data and tells you, it compares it to the different medications on the market. And then, once you're in that database, especially as a child, you can, as they put new medicines in, they automatically update it for you, so you don't have to keep getting tested your whole life.
That's so cool. I've never heard of that before. Drug metabolizing enzymes. So there's this thing I have on Wikipedia I pulled up that it's got these different enzymes, and I was trying to understand what does that mean. So based on like this enzyme plays an important role in metabolism of drugs, including the anti-HIV
Right,
drug.
but if your body can't break it down for whatever reason, the makeup of your body doesn't work on that on that gene or genome, then your body, it's just going to go through your body. It'll either cause problems or it won't, but it won't help you. If you knew you were taking this medicine and it was going to help you, you would do better a lot faster, and you'd get to go farther with your health care and getting the help you need in a timely manner.
I mean, and nowadays it doesn't really cost that much, right? Like to just, even if you want to do it privately, just pay for your to get your genome sequenced. It's actually, I haven't done it yet, but I've heard that there's services in the States that maybe $150 or something like that, or
Yeah, it's about right now the cheapest I found is 300,
oh, okay.
and but the price is always coming down. So the more people that do it, the more the price will go down. And some insurance companies are covering it, so that's really good as well.
Oh, that's something I got to show my wife. That's cool because she has this whole thing in the pharmacy where she actually will get she'll get all the medications from the doctor or from the patient, and then she'll try and look for just between the medications if there's interactions. And
Right.
right, that's
This
obvious.
one is specific to you and your body, your DNA, as to what you need and what can help you.
That's pretty cool. Interesting. Yeah. Well then, I think we just made that a quick one there for me. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing with me your story. So that was nice.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. We will put all of your links and everything in the show notes, and I'll try and throw a little intro onto this after we're done. And then, can you hang around I forgot to say that before we got online, just so that we can say goodbye offline.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again. We say bye-bye to everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.